Kenyans haggle over the fine print of offshore holdings, there is a growing concern over Kenya's debt levels. The Office of the Auditor General announced that she would be combing through the 7.71 trillion shillings Kenya owes with a fine-tooth comb, and the Office of the Controller of Budget boldly identified instances in which President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration violated the law in the utilization of the funds. Olive Burrows has been working on this. It's actually what was our focus on the Nation Leadership Forum on the ballooning rate and levels of public debt. The country has been, at least the leadership has been on record saying that whatever they borrow is for development, but the facts could direct elsewhere, as you're about to see. 4.5 to 4.8 trillion shillings. And one has to ask, what are we doing? What's your plan to manage our debt?
When you talk about our debt, do you know what the debt of the Japanese government is?
I'm not in Japan, so I'm not concerned about Japan.
Japan's debt is over my friend. Okay. For those kind of reasons, I will borrow.
Okay.
Good friend.
Recently.
I will. And I will continue to borrow. Yeah?
Use it to consume.
Not to consume. To develop.
Important distinction there between borrowing to finance development and borrowing for recurrent expenditure. And yet, according to the Controller of Budget's review of the national government's budget implementation for the 2022-21 financial year, President Kenyatta's administration offended both the Constitution and the Public Finance Management Act by applying borrowed funds towards recurrent expenditure. Her office giving two instances. On June the 22nd of this year, when the National Treasury received 80.78 billion shillings from the International Monetary Fund and spent 105 million to finance recurrent expenditure. A week later, the government received 70.17 billion from sovereign bond proceeds intended for infrastructure development. 18.16 billion of this was used to finance recurrent expenditure. Section 15(2)(c) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 provides that over the medium term, the national government's borrowings shall be used only for the purpose of financing development expenditure and not for recurrent expenditure. The Controller of Budget also expressed concern over Kenya's reliance on external borrowing, which goes against the constitutional imperative to maintain overall borrowing within sustainable levels.
If there's anybody here who does not believe that we have a big public debt, then I don't know where you're living. That is why taxes are there and they're increasing at a higher level, because the burden is big.
The Controller of Budget finding that Kenya's public debt rose by 1.51 trillion shillings from 6.2 trillion to 7.71 trillion in the 2020-21 financial year.
Yesterday, the delegated committee really advised this House that we do not have money. Treasury was setting up a sinking fund.
Article 201D of the Constitution requires that public money be used in a prudent and responsible way. And yet, according to the Control of Budget report, pay for staff in the presidency, including the office of the Deputy President, multiplied by 4 in the last financial year, from 2.26 billion to 8.64 billion shillings, as other Kenyans struggle to put food on the table on account of the COVID pandemic and drought, albeit with this promise on record.
My administration has offered a voluntary reduction in salaries of the senior ranks of the National Executive as follows. The President and Deputy President, 80%.
And we then have a president and a first family, and also we could say parliament that has is not paying attention to their accountability to Kenyans.
Olive Burrows, NTV.